Do we want an
Welcome to
intro?
my channel.
What's up? Coming in live. We've got
Auntie
Chanel
Chanel here.
Clark, and we're about to throw down. Context for this call is that it wasn't meant to be a call. This isn't even meant to be a podcast. It was a joke that just extended beyond. And that's how we're going to start. So,
Yeah.
on the call, we have Chanel Clark from the Marketing Club, AU and NZ. We've figured out already that Chanel's grown up in Australia, gone to Auckland, and then moved back to Australia. There's more opportunity across the ditch. And now she has her own marketing company, and she is once upon a time ex-Ārepa, and she was the head of marketing there and the first hire, and that is how our conversation unfurled, because I asked Chanel for a case study or an example of the early days of marketing at Ārepa, because it's become a massive business and a huge success story, definitely out of Aotearoa, and she said she didn't have one. And then I joked, let's have a podcast and record it then, shall we? And she was like, yeah, sounds great, send me the invite. And I was like, wow, that escalated, and here we are.
Me trying to get out of creating you something and just talking through it instead.
And now we're going to use the AI to print out the thing, and then everyone will have the case study, and it'll be great.
Comment, download below.
Hint, hint, wink, wink. You're on my email list, and
Yeah.
I'm a pro at this. I've got heaps of LinkedIn followers, so let's make it happen.
Love
In
it.
all non-seriousness, first question, straight off the bat then. When you joined Ārepa as the first marketing hire, Chanel, what was the state of the brand, and what were the top 3 fires you had to put out to start with?
I mean, the brand was really strong in New Zealand. I think, when you're, especially in FMCG, if you're a brand that's never existed in a category that's never existed before, obviously there's, like a hell of a mountain you have to climb, but also it means that you're running in an area where no one else is. So definitely coming along, I was like, oh shit, this is like really, really cool. But then again, like I said, it's like no one had any idea what a brain drink was. So the education that needed to be provided on that was insane. So to kind of walk in and understand that there wasn't a marketing department already, I was like, that's interesting. And then when I kind of understood more about the business and where they were trying to head, I was like, oh, so this is why you've hired marketing now, but also like probably a year ago, you should have done this. But yeah, I would say one of the first fires, or not even fires, it was just really like, what is marketing going to look like for the business? Because obviously I had to build up the function, but then actually go and do all the things as well. So just getting a really good understanding and sitting down with the boys and being like, right, where are we at? Who's doing what? What are we trying to do? How do we think we're going to do this? What money do we have to do this? And then basically me just beavering away in a room for like days on end, being like, okay, shit. So this is the stuff we need to do. This is where we are. These are all the things we don't have. This is the money that we've got. What does all that look like in some kind of strategy?
Wow. And you mentioned like maybe hired a year too late, or like could have been a year earlier. Like how far had they got before they were like, oh my goodness, we probably need some help?
I think they were 4 years in.
Wow.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm a massive advocate for obviously marketers being one of the first hires in a business. It's insane that marketers now, like I think I remember last year I saw an industry report that marketers are usually like the 15th to 20th hire in a business. It's all logistics, sales, BDMs, finance. And I mean, yes, like those are very important roles, but it's also like if you're launching a brand, you need to build brand, you need to market the brand, but there's no marketing person sitting in those teams. And I think obviously it's a massive education piece. Like I won't waste the rest of the call talking about it or you won't get me to shut up, but I think it's just a massive realization of like marketers still don't really have a seat at the table early on. We're fighting for it, and then by the time that people want to hire marketers, the amount of work we have to do just to get something to a baseline of where it should be is insane.
And so, you weren't hire number 15, hopefully, by the time
No,
they
I
were
think
4
I
years in.
was hire number 5.
Okay.
So when I got there, it was the 2 founders and then 3 or 4 of the boys that were doing sales and logistics. So I was the first female hire, first marketing hire, or the first hire without FMCG experience. That one was terrifying.
Yeah, right. Wow. Steep learning curve. And
Yeah.
so, obviously, FMCG, were they doing like e-commerce at that time? What was the marketing sort of split that was happening?
Yeah. So when I got on, there was social media. emails
Yeah.
and some very light partnership stuff. And partnership, I say loosely, it was basically like, oh, my bro works at BFM and they're happy to do giveaways for us. Or, oh, yeah, those boys down the road, they're sick. They do like a run club every week, so we'll send some product. And I was like, okay, cool. What cadence is it? Oh, no, we just hit each other up on Instagram DMs and then sort it. I was like, right.
And 100% organic at that point? How far had they got in terms of like awareness or like what was that?
That was all organic completely. So when I came on, like I've visibly remember my first week was almost spent just trolling through the Instagram DMs. There was like hundreds of DMs that never got answered. So I was just trying to find out like what have we done? What haven't we done? Is there anyone sitting in here that's like a potential partnership? There was a DM from Stephen Adams when he got first was interested about investing in the company. Like it was just chaos. I was like, why is no one checking these?
Wow, that's
Yeah.
wild.
Mm.
Did
But it was
Stephen?
cool because there was so much to work with. I was like, right, so no one's done anything. So now whatever I do is going to be better than the nothing thing. So, like, great launch pad. I'm
Did
like,
Stephen
I
end up?
literally cannot lose here.
Yeah, exactly. Task number one, outcome, clear all DMs. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Keep
Receiving
inbox at zero.
expectations.
Hey guys, I got 100 grand investment from Stephen Adams in the company. Did you guys want that? Like, pay for my salary. You know?
Yeah.
Did he end up investing?
Yeah.
Maybe undisclosable. And so okay, so you set the stage, you got everything like under control, let's call it. What were some of the first sort of high leverage bets that you made that, then sort of rocketed them towards that first $1 million month?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was, now that marketing was a function in the business, they were like, okay, obviously we hired you because we want to ramp up or start marketing activity. And a big thing that I did was really have a look at, right, like where is everyone who buys the product? Is that like what are emails looking like? Have we ever done any campaigns? No, okay, cool. Maybe that's a good place to start. And then really seeing where customers actually were. So one of the first things that I saw was that 67% of the revenue that Ārepa was making at the time was from Aucklanders over 50. And they'd never intentionally targeted them before. It was just those were the people who were obviously looking at or maybe Googling like, oh, I'm tired, I'm fatigued, I need extra energy. They obviously have the expendable income. So we're looking at investing in products that, weren't just like the $4 can of Coke or energy drink off the supermarket shelf. So one of the first things I said is, well, let's do a campaign targeting these people because if we've got 67% of our revenue coming from them and that's been all organic, imagine what we could bump that up to if we actually did a campaign targeting them. So I called it the Boomer campaign.
Yes.
Which now I kind of regret because every time someone asks me that, I'm like, oh God, the campaign name, I didn't think about that one very well. But that was just literally who we were targeting. And then it was really good because then it meant all the channels that we decided to be on aligned with that. So it was, NZ Herald, the Time Saver Traffic intros and outros. It was magazines. It was, we ended up getting a placement on Air New Zealand, those like screens that they bring down at the start. We did some out of home stuff. So obviously everything was very Auckland centralized. And it was just a really good launch pad to be like, okay, look, if we've got X amount of money to spend and we target really tightly in this area where people already know that we exist, like what would the outcome of that be? And that was right at the time when Ārepa had also just gone through a rebrand. So it was kind of like there was essentially like a new launch, fresh face kind of thing coming already. And I was like, well, if we can wrap these things in two, so it's almost like a brand awareness campaign on one level, but then a targeted customer focused campaign on another, I think this could be, like the best of both rather than just doing like bits here and there.
Helpful. And that insight, 67%, boomers for the boomer campaign.
Mhm.
How'd you figure that out? Was that through the DMs or was that through analytics or what did that look
Yeah,
like?
that was through analytics, mainly through the website. So from the e-commerce platform, like emails were absolutely insane. Like I've never stepped into another company that didn't really have a strict e-com plan, but were doing so well on e-com. Like all of the emails at that point, I think they were sitting anywhere between like a 31 to 42% open rate. Every single email was making anywhere between like 5 to 20K. And that wasn't even emails that were product pushes. That was just like educational emails. So coming in, that made me so excited because I was like, oh my God, if what we're already doing is working and there's not really a marketing strategy behind it or like intention of the content we're coming out with, I was like, let me tap in because I'm pretty sure this is going to get better.
So you tapped in, and then you hit the Boomer campaign. How long was that? Is it like 3 months sort of block?
Yeah,
What does
we
that look
did
like?
that for 3 months, and obviously that ran alongside also us just doing billboards for the first time because we went from having this very, you know, New Zealand kind of focus branding, which was, it wasn't bad. It just looked so quintessentially New Zealand. Whereas because we were planning on launching into the Aussie market, when they did the rebrand, they're like, well, this brand needs to stand up across Australasia. It doesn't need to look like, like the DIY, the backyard, the home of the eight wire kind of NZ vibes. So that was really cool because then obviously with the billboards and everything on top of that, it basically just exploded the brand awareness like crazy. Like I remember we did the Boomer campaign and then a brand awareness play at the same time. So it all definitely felt like part of the whole campaign. And we used Tracksuit to track our data. And within 9 months, so from February till I think it was November, we increased brand awareness by 12%. Yeah.
And then marketing spend with new marketing hire and marketing budget compared to
Mhm.
ROI. How'd you track that, and did that
Yeah,
have a
well, I
big
mean, the
impact as well?
sales across those channels definitely doubled just because suddenly we were everywhere. And that was very intentional. Like a lot of people sort of say to me, like, oh, if you had to hang your hat on one thing that you did Ārepa that worked really well, what would that be? And I think honestly, it was being everywhere all at once. Like for almost 6 months, from the time you woke up and checked your phone, whether it was Facebook, LinkedIn, emails, a podcast, whatever, then you got in your car, you're listening on the radio, you're driving to work, you see a billboard, you're going to the supermarket for lunch, oh, suddenly we've got a sale on. Like we were everywhere. And it did not stop for almost 6 months. Like once the tail end of the Boomer campaign was coming to an end, the brand awareness campaign kicked off. And then suddenly, people had never even heard of us before, but were going to their local yoga studios or run clubs or mental health events. Like then our product was there. And I remember so many people messaging me and they were like, I cannot escape you guys right now. And I'm like, yeah, I know. Like that was literally the point. Like, I'm sorry, but also.
Can I just have a little bit of a break?
Yeah.
Break? You're stimulating my neurons way too much, guys. Just chill out, all
Like, I'm
right?
a Reaper and calm down.
Wow. And I've, been in, say, like the sports arena for a while and things like that. There's obviously the old adage of like Red Bull giving away cans and getting
Mhm.
7 cans back or things like that. How did you value like in-person giveaways or, product placements, things like that? I know brands are often okay to give away product but never money and things like that. How do you guys view that aspect of the
Yeah,
brand?
especially when I came on board, there was a pretty vicious quota of how much product we wanted to give away a month. I think from memory, it was 10,000 bottles.
Hmm.
And this was before we'd launched cans. So 10,000 glass bottles, the cost of that is almost, $20,000, $30,000 a month just on COGS alone. But we could just see, especially, and obviously, like I was looking at marketing not just from a consumer point of view, but also being like, well, how do we build community? How do we tap into brands that already exist, who already have their own community? So we leaned very heavily into giving away product for events, for influencers. We did tastings, activations. When our first billboards went live, we did like a product handout underneath the billboard because you see the thing, you want to try the thing. Oh my God, we're there. Tastings at supermarkets, trade shows, like we definitely also kept it quite grassroots. Like while we were trying to get the education up, we didn't want to pay exorbitant fees to have product placement at these big bougie events. We're like, well, let's support the rugby players on a Saturday morning, the kids cross country team, the local rugby club that the boys were connected to back down in Hawke's Bay. Like it was all very centered around where we knew people already were that loved us. We're like, how do we give back there before we then try and like win everywhere else?
And, you mentioned that term community with that.
Mm-hmm.
How would you describe, I guess, the community that you formed around the product or the brand? Did you have like a place that they all went to, or you would just call that like the alignment of things that you supported as your community?
Yeah, I think it was a bit of both. Like my way of thinking around if you sell a product or service, if it disappeared tomorrow, what would people say about the brand if they could never buy that thing again?
Hmm.
And that was very intentional for how I chose to market Ārepa and the decisions that we made. So when it came to looking at community, I was like, how do we create things that make sense for us to be there at, but if we weren't there, it would still make sense as a brand. So we ended up supporting and running our own, we call it the Brothers Brain Chat. So we partnered with Zane Munro from For All the Brothers, and it was a men's mental health meetup every Tuesday on the I think it was the second Tuesday of every single month. We opened up our office space, invited all these men in to have a chat, and we got different speakers from like Barkers or No Ugly or Not Another Fisherman, etc., basically to share their very honest stories about being a man and struggling with your mental health. And that for me was so frustrating because it was the one event I created that I couldn't be at because I was female. And it was
Oh,
men only. And I was like, can I hide in the kitchen? And they're like, no, Chanel, fuck off. I was like, fine, whatever, I'll let you guys do it. But it was just creating things like that, like pockets of, we knew we had communities sitting in those areas, but nothing was being facilitated for them. So we're like, well, how do we do that for them instead? And then we have our product there, but it's not necessarily a product push. It's just, hey, on your way out or while you're sitting there listening to these amazing men talk, why don't you have a drink? And oh, it just so happens to be our product. And then another initiative that we did because we knew so much of our community was into, their health and wellness was we partnered with Fitness All Together to do weekly HIIT classes outside our office in the car park.
huh.
And again, product wasn't there until you decided to leave and we're like, hey, it's 8 a.m. on your way to work. Do you want to grab a brain drink rather than, stopping at your local cafe for a coffee? But there was no real like serious agenda there. It was more, how do we bring people together who we already know kind of live and breathe what the product is about? And then if we tap in the product at the end or at some point, it makes sense, but it wasn't the whole thing that people were centered around.
Wow. Very subtle, but very intentional at the same time.
Yeah, and it was so impactful because then you think like for the HIIT classes, for example, I think the most we got at one class was like 35 on a Tuesday morning at like 6 a.m. Everyone showed, and that was probably the worst thing I organized because I had to actually show up for it. And then actually go through the class and everything. I was like dying. I was like, guys, I'm just the marketing manager. Like I shouldn't be here. I just wanted to film content. Everyone's like, get in, Chanel. But, you think 35 people go into that class, they're probably going to post on Instagram about it. Suddenly there's a story on their Instagram because they've walked away with a free Ārepa. Then suddenly they're chatting to their mates. They get into the office. Oh, how was your morning? Oh, I just went to a HIIT class hosted. Like there was so much almost like, I suppose, tailwind comms off the back of that one thing that we did, and then we'd literally do it again the next week and the next week. So each week that we did it, we almost saw like new people coming in every single time because they'd heard about it on Instagram, they'd seen us post it on LinkedIn. Like I used to viciously tag everyone on LinkedIn as well. Like I'd be like, hey, classes are coming up, like everyone get involved. And it was a really good way for me to kind of like connect Ārepa to potential stockers, buyers, new customers, etc. I was like the devil trying to convince people to come work out and then be like, but I promise that you'll feel better after and you get a free drink.
Were you sleeping at all during this period, or like just on a
Briefly.
reaper? Just I'm like my brain's just going, oh my goodness, how did you guys do all this?
Yeah, it was a lot. Like I remember when I resigned, I did a post on LinkedIn wrapping up the amount of stuff that I'd done since I was there. And there was actually quite a bit that I didn't include in that post because it essentially reminded me that we ended up activating on something almost every week for the almost 2 years that I was there. And I was like, no wonder I'm tired.
Wow, wow, massive, massive job, and
Mm,
it even seems seemingly small, like those activations you're talking about, like maybe 35 people at this, and obviously all these other events and stuff.
mm.
Do you feel that people, in like this new AI generated, user generated content world that we're in, do you feel that brands and products undervalue like small, deep excursions
Yeah.
or like that, and they're not really focusing on how important or impactful some of those deeper connections can be as a ripple effect for their brand?
Yeah, oh, 100%. I think brands are like, oh, we'll build community, but we have to have 200 people come to this event. And it's got to be all over social media and we'll get videographer, we'll over engineer the whole thing. And I'm like, honestly, like good for you if you can do that at scale and like do it well. But I think the impact for us was the smaller, the intimate, the more meaningful. It meant we could execute at a higher level. And then those people basically became our biggest brand advocates because it was such an intimate, catered experience for them. Like, same when we did, just before I left, we did like a big mindful morning event, and that was probably the biggest one that we've done. But again, we didn't, we could have booked a space for 300. We booked a space for 100 people instead. I mean, we ended up doing the event twice in one day because we sold out a ticket so quick and people were disappointed with us. And I remember messaging the venue and I was like, well, we've already booked it. So can we just like run this back? They're like, yeah, sure, whatever. As long as you're out by 5, like do what you want. But it was just being able to, I guess, listen to the community and be like, well, this is what they want. These are the kind of connections that they're making. If we go and do a yoga session down at the beach for 500 people, it doesn't feel like we've actually catered it to them. We're just looking at doing something for the scale and then, posting the Instagram video after and be like, oh my God, 500 people showed up. We're amazing. And it's like, it just doesn't hit that properly.
And did you guys rinse and repeat that when you went to Australia, or how did you maintain that essence when you
Yeah.
then started growing further?
Yeah, I think Aussie was an interesting one because a lot of marketers in New Zealand, well, and founders too, think, oh, if you do New Zealand, copy paste, put it in Australia. And that was absolutely not the right way to do it. I think in Australia, specifically for our product, I'm not saying that doesn't work for other people. If it does, like kudos to you because I'm so jealous. But for us, because it was a product started in New Zealand, launching in Australia, there's almost immediately that rivalry between Kiwis and Aussies, right? So Australia didn't care that we were Kiwi run, Kiwi owned. They didn't want to know that it was, started by one of the founders in Hawke's Bay. Instead, they wanted to know that one of the co-founders used to live in Bondi or Byron or whatever. They wanted to know that oh God, I forget the name. They wanted to know that like the neuroscientist was out of Swinburne in Melbourne. Like we had to localize it when we launched there because they literally did not care about anything to do with New Zealand. Like we were taking New Zealand out of press releases. It was that aggressive.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I definitely noticed that when I lived in Melbourne for a couple of years, a few years back, and I noticed that with like, and, you just assume this. If you're in one country, you're like, oh yeah, we're great, and everyone wants the like Made in New Zealand label on their product. Well, Australia's just as proud, and they've got Made
Yeah.
in Australia on all their things, and
Yeah.
you're like, of course.
Yeah.
Like,
And we just didn't anticipate that. We were trying to tell the quintessential New Zealand homegrown success story, got into Aussie, and they're like, I don't care. Good for you guys. Like, but it was so interesting from a marketing point of view because then we basically needed to redo our marketing strategy and localize it in Australia. So what was the purpose of us coming to Aussie? Why did we care about being in Aussie? Who were the local communities or influencers that we could partner with to share that story? Like it was essentially a whole different company launching into Australia.
gotcha. Wow. And I suppose that concept of launch, right? Ārepa's on this cusp of wellness and good for you, and it touches a whole lot of different things.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose an interesting question I have is like, if you're given 100 grand right now to launch a new wellness product,
Mm-hmm.
that had to bridge the gap between Australia and New Zealand, how would you utilize that, in like today's current environment? Whether that's around community, whether that's around content, what does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, I will sing community till the day I die. I think people are so exhausted at being marketed at, and now people who don't even understand marketing are starting to understand marketing because we all know when it happens, right? You read the shit emails, you see ads on TV, you understand what they're trying to do. So it's like I think as people's perception of marketing changes and they get better at understanding it, there's kind of no room to be like, hey, you should try this thing. This is what it does for you. It's like, give me an experience. I'm a human. I connect with humans. If I have a good experience, I'm going to tell more humans about that. And if it was a brand that facilitated that thing that got me that connection or had me a good time, then I'm likely to talk about it more. So if I had 100 grand right now, obviously there's a brand awareness play for sure. There's some performance marketing budget there too. But I think honestly, I would be focusing most of the money on putting on some kind of experience and tapping the right people in to share that experience.
So community is not dying and it's not dead, and
Community was
it's
never dead. People just stopped focusing on it. Like everyone's like, "Oh, community's back." I'm like, "Community never left. You guys just stopped thinking it was important." And now, you see people like, "Oh yeah, we scaled to like a $30 billion brand, but our retention rates are shit." And I'm like, "Why do you think that is?"
Mm.
It's these big success metrics of, "Oh, we sold this, we did that, we've turned over this." And it's like, "Yeah, but half the community left you like 3 years ago, and you never got them back because they stopped feeling like they mattered. They were just a number on a spreadsheet that you got to report to a board member or a CEO or an investor. And now where are they? They're buying someone else's product because they got to go to a run club down at the beach that spoke to who they are as a human."
And you speak of like Run Club there. That's obviously a very popular and amazing example of community right
Mhm.
now. Um, if we're talking about brand and marketing, there's obviously like it's nice to be able to be the Run Club locally, but
Mhm.
how do I guess global oriented brands maintain that in-person connection, digital footprint? What
Mhm.
does that look like?
Yeah, I think it's just figuring out like where is your product? Where are the people who want to buy your product and what interests them? Like I deal with this with the marketing club all the time. I'm based in Brisbane, but we operate across 8 different locations. So it's listening to the community of where are they? Who are you trying to target? What matters to them? And then actually go and do the things. Like if you're worried about trying to build something for community, listen to the community you want to build for and then go and execute on that thing. And if that doesn't sit right with you, then maybe don't build community there. If it mashes up your idea of brand or whatever you were trying to do, okay, then maybe that's not the thing. Or maybe there's a variation of that thing. Like with the marketing club, you know, the type of events that we do in Sydney aren't always going to hit in Melbourne or in Christchurch or in Wellington. Like we're flexible. We literally say to people, what do you like? What do you want from us next? Like Christchurch at the moment, they'd rather a coffee meetup in the morning versus a big educational event. And I'm like,
Oh
that's
wow.
fine. If all we ever did was coffee meetups for Christchurch because that's how people want to connect, and maybe we scale it a bit bigger or, tap a speaker in or something for 15 minutes, I'm like, that's all good because they've told us that's what we want. I'm not going to keep trying to push them in a direction that they're not interested in. And I think brands need to do the same thing. Like everyone's got the idea on paper of, well, this is what we need to do. And then, oh, why aren't people wanting this? It's like they've been telling you for years they don't want it. You've got them to fill out a survey of what do you want to see from us next? What are you interested in? What email do you want to subscribe to? You got all the data there. You're literally just not listening.
Mm. And I think what I heard there that's fascinating is you're doing that at like segmentation at a community level,
Yeah.
right? Like you're talking like Ārepa country level, and then you're
Hmm.
also like the marketing club community level between cities.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
like for example, like with, taking it back to Ārepa, community level, the hit classes in Auckland made sense because we knew so many people in Auckland or very specifically around Morningside, Ponsonby area where our office was, were interested in the brand. So we're like, okay, we'll do that there. But in Wellington, we didn't really know anyone who wanted to do hit classes down there. So we were like, oh, well, we'll sponsor some other events that already exist down there. So it was like listening to what the communities wanted and then catering to that based on what they said.
mm, yeah.
Like
I
it's not that hard.
What's your I'm always curious around like surveys and things like that.
Hmm.
What's your core question that you would encourage anyone that gives a survey post community event or anything to ask their members or
Hmm.
avid fans? What's that one question that you usually listen to?
Yeah, I mean specifically related to TMC, because I mean I'm sending surveys out like every other week
You're
after we
walking
do
the
an
talk.
event.
You are
Like
the
we
essence.
100 people at an event, you guarantee the next day on LinkedIn I am manually DMing every single person that came to that event, asking them about their experience. So I think the biggest question is, how would you rate your experience out of 5? Did we hit the mark? Did we not? Then the next question straight away is what could we have improved on? Because people love giving that unsolicited feedback. And I think also the way that I have run TMC and us show up as a brand is that we're very comfortable with falling on the sword if we don't do things right. But we need to know that first. And the community knows that we appreciate that too. Like I have intentionally built that brand to say, look, if we didn't get it, I'm sorry, but tell us so we can do better next time. We're okay with bad feedback. I'm a big girl. I can take constructive criticism. But if you don't tell me what was missing here for you, I literally can't do anything about it. And then the one question we always finish it with is, what would you like to see from us next? And that question I love because 9 times out of 10, when we build an event voted on by the community based on the topic that they want, we get so many people coming to those events and say, I helped build this. You listened to what I wanted, and 3 months later, I'm at the event talking about the topic that I said was interesting to me. So they know, they literally get that immediate like dopamine hit of this was me. I had a part in this too, and now I'm here at the thing that I asked you to do. Oh, and you got rid of the shit thing that I said I hated because 20 other people also didn't like that. And I'm like, great, noted.
Get Chanel off the stage.
Yeah.
Talks about
No more
mumbo jumbo all the time.
the cheese platter. I get it.
And so, have you seen when you have asked for that feedback, and obviously those evolutions, do the communities do they change in ways that you don't always expect as that happens, and as they get bigger, or
Scale's definitely a double-edged sword. It's great to build things that are getting bigger, but you never want to inherently lose what made you good in the first place. And I think a lot of brands lose sight of that. They start seeing the numbers and the momentum, and they're like, oh my God, bigger's better, bigger's always better, whatever. And it's like, yeah, but if you don't listen to what the majority are saying, you're going to lose bigger, and then you're going to be left with the people who were the OGs from the start that you never listened to, and they'll probably leave you as well. So I think like a big thing, as Ārepa was scaling, but also with what I do with the marketing club, it's just finding out what those core people actually really want, especially the ones coming back, right? Like it's always hard to get feedback from people who have never heard us before. They might come to their first event and be like, oh, I had no idea that you guys existed. And I'm like, well, now you know, keep coming back. But it's the people that continuously show up and start to understand what we're trying to do as a brand, what our impact is, why we exist, why we're doing things differently. Those are the people that I listen to the most. And those are the people now that I've built personal relationships with. Like I'm probably like the worst founder business operator ever because I'm still manually doing so much within the community that I know can be automated. But I'm like, that's the difference though. Like if you come to our first event and then a founder is messaging you saying, thank you so much for showing up. Lovely to meet you last night. I'm so glad this was an experience I got to create for you. Can you tell me what I could improve on next? Like you can't replace that. I don't care how good your email automation is or your bloody Instagram reel that you got to, pay 10K for a videographer to like film all the content. That personal connection is worth so much more than people realize.
yeah. And it seems silly, I think, but just actually doing that work of just listening and like sometimes manual tasks.
Mhm.
It's, let's automate the world, but actually, I think that depth there's magic in that, and
Yeah. Oh, I forever say it's a hill I will die on. There are so many people right now being like, you could automate half of the stuff that you do and it'll save you 20 hours a week. And I'm like, cool, not doing it because this is the stuff that I know has the impact.
for sure, right? Which is actually what people aren't seeing, maybe, is that you're just actually prioritizing the highest value stuff.
Yeah.
And the depth and the weight that holds on it. So that's super amazing to hear that.
Yeah.
And obviously you're repeating your lessons.
I'm very self-aware that it's not scalable. Absolutely psychotically self-aware that it's not scalable. But I'm like, if this is the impact and this is why we're growing so fast, let me continue to do it until it kills me. And then I'll take my foot off the gas and maybe agree to automate some stuff or delegate it. So it's at least still a human talking to these people, right?
Yeah.
But like I need to be pushed off the ledge before I agree to not do that anymore.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Lots of conviction. Personal brand, company brands, flying together these days. You've obviously got a big presence on LinkedIn, company brands, Ārepa, the marketing club, things like that. They're their own entities as well. What's your take? Personal brand to support a company brand, personal brand, then layer in company brand afterwards. Where does that harmony sit, I guess, these days?
Yeah, I mean, humans follow humans, not brands. So I'm always a massive advocate in personal brand over everything, founder-led stories. You see more and more people popping up on LinkedIn and Instagram now, and it's like listening to the founder talk behind the brand that they're actually building rather than the brand trying to be this super polished, like ultra perfect kind of thing. I think that's kind of gone by the wayside now. Again, humans know when they're being marketed to. I would way rather hear the war stories of a founder like Nick and Kate from Moody do this really well. They've told and leaned into the story so much of all the shit that's gone wrong, all the sacrifices they've had to make to build the brand, that it makes me almost like empathetic towards them and be like, well, now I want to support them because they've been so open and honest about what they've gone through. And same with Ārepa, like I definitely noticed, yes, our socials were very curated and whatever, but once we started adding those community activations and events and elements, and we were partnering with more people to tell the story of Ārepa versus the very curated, like, oh, look, this is what this products do, here's some education, and all of it was, it was raw. Like we would get better momentum from, 53-year-old Sharon in Taupo filming on her like 2-camera iPhone saying like, oh, I just, this is amazing. Just wanted to say thank you, team. And like, oh, by the way, hi Angus's mum. I know you run customer service. Like you were amazing. Like that clipped up for a Facebook ad would do so much better than, oh, here's 10 steps to look after your brain. Use code, brain food for 20% off. Like no one, it just doesn't hit anymore. So from a brand point of view, I'm always like, what is the founder journey? And employee advocacy as well. There's UGC, but now there's EGC, like employee generated content. Tell me the story of the humans behind the brand, because that will get me to buy in as another human more than all the curated marketing calendar, social templates, that kind of stuff.
Karen and Sharon from Taupo and so you're saying get all the team members' mums, send them some free product.
I mean, it was just such a lovely thing that Angus's mum was our customer service person at Ārepa, because it was just the deep relationships that she built with customers then, because she was the mum, oh, you must be so proud of your son. Oh, this is so... It just played in on so many people's heartstrings of like, this was literally a family company that started and then went big and brought friends and family in along on the journey, that was kind of like punching above the weight of what normal companies at that size or scale were doing.
Impressive. Now you mentioned like Moody are doing it really well at the moment. Is there anyone else people should check out of good examples of what you think, around this brand, personal story, community combinations at the moment? Any shout outs?
I mean, I'm obviously in like my own echo chamber on LinkedIn, but I would say like Steve Chapman from Hyro, the electrolyte drink, does it really well. Who else do I follow? I mean, I've always been obsessed with Gymshark. That was almost the one brand that I used to model Ārepa's marketing strategy off, because I very firmly believe in like marketing strategies don't need to be industry specific. There is so much that I'm inspired from non-FMCG brands that literally helped me create Ārepa's marketing strategy. And obviously that strategy is something I would like to hang my hat on and be like, I think I did a pretty good job there. But I think people get so stuck in being like, oh, we have to do it the same way everyone else did. And, like I said at the start of the call, I had no FMCG experience when I started Ārepa. I didn't even know what FMCG stood for before I got the interview. And I was like, I better Google this just so I understand. But because I wasn't in FMCG world, I came in with such an untainted view of what marketing needed to look like for that company. So everything we were doing, at the time, I guess it was like, oh, you're breaking the mold, you're challenging the status quo. And I'm like, no, I'm just putting our brand in a way that I think works. It's not my fault that most other FMCG brands aren't doing this, but like we were one of the first brands, FMCG brands in Auckland to, do HIIT classes, create these own kind of events of ourselves where the product was kind of like the backstory behind why we were doing it. And obviously now everyone's, they're all popping up after that. And I was like, oh yeah, cheers guys. Like, where are your own ideas? But I think like just taking inspiration from what other people are doing and be like, how could I do this to my brand? And how does that make sense? Like you don't need to reinvent the wheel.
As they say, great artists steal. So, take things from other industries and apply them to whatever your application is and see if it works.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously, each industry is specific with like the channels that you should be on, the amount of money that you need to spend, etc. Like there's definitely like nuances per each. But I just think people get so stuck in looking at same for inspiration and forget you can get inspired literally anywhere by anyone doing anything, and then just figure out what is our way of doing that makes sense.
So probably to put a bow on things, last question. We've talked a lot about community. We've talked a bit about stealing from other brands and your inspiration around Ārepa and things like
Not
that.
stealing, it's getting inspiration and turning it into your own.
There we go. Is there anything else that you'd add that you're, personally convicted on where marketing is moving for the next 2 to 3 years?
I mean, obviously, like AI is the big, scary, overwhelming, is it going to solve all the world problems kind of conversation. Honestly can't even be bothered talking about it because I'm sure by the time, any content from this comes out, there'll be some other shit and everyone will be like, "Oh, you were wrong." But I think like the most exciting thing that I see brands doing that I think do well now is just not being afraid to test shit. I think like the big reason that, and I mean, I could be wrong here, but I feel like I'm not. The big reason that we did so much when I was at Ārepa was because I was marketing team of one with no one telling me what to do. I basically got given the keys to the kingdom with a budget, and they said, "Well, Chanel, you know what we're trying to achieve. Now go and do the things you think will work." If something didn't work, all right, sweet, we'll never do that again. Lesson learned. If something did work, double down. How do we do that better, bigger, faster, stronger? Like, what does that look like? Like, there was so much flexibility at scale to try and do all these different things and learn very quickly. And, because we'd built so much community as well. Ask the community. Like when we were looking at rehashing our email plan, what emails do you want to see from us? Are these educational ones interesting? Do you want to know more about like tips of when to have the product? Do you understand what the product is? Should we do more content about that? Like all of it, we wouldn't have been able to do so much that we did at the scale and the rate that we did it if we hadn't tried and tested things first. And I think people lose that. It's like, I understand you're running a business, and maybe it's easier for me to say because I was an employee and not, the owner dealing with all the money stress. But I think at some point you have to have flexibility to be like, we don't know what will work. No one can tell anyone 100% confidently, if you do this thing, this will be the result you get. So I'm like, dip your toe in the water, figure out what, a potential amount of money or something is to lose that you're comfortable with. Try it, see what happens, and then continue going from there. And that's literally all we did at Ārepa. We're like, oh yeah, we'll throw an event. We'll do handouts. We'll show at the trade show at this trade show, and try a different activation or try a way to get leads or billboards. Like that's a good idea. But we wouldn't have got that far if we hadn't just tried it. And I think brands now, everyone's freaking out about having to be perfect and doing everything has to be so thought out. And I'm like, yes, it does to a degree, but I also think, 80% thought out, 20% chaos. And the 20% chaos is where you learn so much shit. And usually you end up getting community to buy in with you because they're like, oh my God, this is unhinged. This is so out of character for the brand. This is the shit that I'm looking for. And I'm like, yeah, that's the stuff people connect with. We don't know what we're doing, so we're just going to try it.
Amazing. Yeah. And I think that's something that I value in life massively, irrespective of, whether we're talking about marketing, but just, experimenting frequently and often. Like I've got a background in software and things like that. And, I think your rate of learning, that velocity is directly connected to your growth, whatever that might mean for your business. And so, I 100% agree. And that's, really amazing to hear that reinforced. So.
I'll validate it for you.
Yay.
It's literally all I've done with the marketing club. I had no idea what I was building there. And 2.5 years later, we're a community of 12,500. And I'm like, I didn't know. I just did shit and tried it and got the feedback and never did the things people said they hated and iterated on the things they said they wanted. And now, we're growing like crazy. I'm like, it's not hard. Listen, try, test, learn, avoid the shit that sucks. Keep going on the stuff that doesn't.
And people call that magic. I'm like, oh, you listen to me. It's magic. Yay, I'll show up again. And I'll tell my friends.
Yeah.
Funny that. Well, that has been an absolute pleasure, Chanel, hearing that entire backstory and where you think marketing's going as well across a range of marketing and brands. So I really appreciate your time. And
No,
it's
you're
been a pleasure.
so welcome. See, I told you this would be better than a case study on a PDF.
So much better. And we can just print out the PDF afterwards with our new AI time-saving tool.
Yeah.